The Central Bank of Nigeria has instructed banks in the country to implement a cybersecurity levy on transactions, which, according to a circular issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria on Monday, the levy will be implemented starting 2 weeks from now. The directive applies to commercial, merchant, non-interest, and payment service banks, as well as other financial institutions, mobile money operators, and the payment service providers. Exempted from the levy includes loan disbursement and repayments, salary payments, intra-account transfers within the same bank or between different banks for the same customer. Intra-bank transfers between customers of the same bank. Also exempted from the levy were interbank transfers within a bank, cash clearing and check clearing, and settlement, letter of credit, bank recapitalization, related funding, only bulk transfer movement from collection accounts, savings and deposits, including transactions involving long-term investments, amongst others. Now, for more on this, I'm joined on the news by Kenneth, a business and social policy analyst. Kenneth, thank you for joining me on the news.
Good evening, Dakpo. It's nice seeing you again, and it's nice being on News Central again.
Yes, the feeling is mutual. Now, let's talk about how the implementation of the cybersecurity levy impact the operational cost and profitability of banks and also the financial institutions in Nigeria involved.
All right, I woke up this morning to this news. I cannot say it was a news worth celebrating. It is deepening the tax net for the government, but it is also increasing the sundry expenditure for the citizen. And if you know me very well, I'll always be on the part of the people, on the part of the citizens, whilst we do everything possible to encourage the government to at least deliver good dividends of democracy. Now, back to your question with respect to this new cybersecurity levy, I think it's more appropriate to call it a cybersecurity tax that individuals in Nigeria would have to pay, and I think some corporate organizations would have to pay. It does not in any way impact the profitability of banks because the levies are not going to be going into banks. But what may just happen is that consumers of these banking products may become smarter to start looking for ways where they can avoid paying these levies by restricting themselves to the 16 different pivots that lead to the exemption of these taxes. So it will mean that the little or the small market woman that has to do business with somebody in my 12 would now have to look for somebody in my 12 that has and shares the same bank with her, or him, so that he or she can actually avoid these taxes. So it is not a problem of the banks per se. It is a cost of transaction that is being passed across to final consumers. And it really begs the question whether that is what we need at this point in time. A couple of matters actually do arise. Most key of these are whether these transactions and these levies or this tax, I prefer to call them, are backed by law, no doubt. It is backed by the Cybercrime Prevention and Prohibition Act as amended 2024. I'm still doing my research to find out when that amendment was done and why it was done. But as the conversation unfolds, I guess there's more that we would have to unravel with respect to this new trend in our system.
I mean, there are quite a number of knotty, areas about this new or recent development. And one of it is what value exactly does this portend for the customer? So does it mean that the customer can sue an institution should his money, get missing in transit and the bank tells you they can't trace it? So, the rationale behind this cyber, tax levy, or as you've called it, is also brought to the fore. I'd like you to expand more on that.
Well, for me, we know what is happening in the country now. The explanations with this recent development, or the explanations that help us to unfold the result, the trade behind this development, are not far-fetched. The country is in need of serious revenue generation. And one of the ways by which we can actually generate revenue is by deepening the tax net. But when you now start imposing cyber security levies or taxes on ordinary Nigerians, the question remains, what benefits, like you did actually say, should come back to Nigerians? I know from the acts that I perused through this morning that these levies are supposed to be collected and domiciled in a central bank account for onward onboarding and transfer to the office of the National Security Advisor in what is called the Cybersecurity or Cybersecurity Fund. Now, what will this fund be used for? I would have expected, like you rightly said, that these funds should be used or should be going into some form of insurance net where people that are victims of genuine victims of cybersecurity attacks. Like we saw within the week, one of the Nollywood female legends had her account emptied by another bank, from one bank, by another customer to another bank. So what happens to people like this that are genuine victims of cybersecurity attacks? I do not know. As the days unfold and as we continue to study the trend, we will see where these funds will actually get to and what they will be used for.
Now, let's also consider measures taken by banks expected to undertake and ensure compliance with the Cybersecurity Levy directive while minimizing disruptions to customer transactions and services. How do you think that this can come about?
Could you take that question again? I didn't get that question.
Okay, now the question I was just trying to clarify is how can banks, sort of implement this in a way that at the end of the day it's efficient and doesn't affect day-to-day transaction?
No, I mean the architecture, the technology and the innovation and the architecture that backs up how these new levies and how these new instructions will be implemented already exist. It's just for the banks to onboard whatever is collected at any point in time, to the central bank domiciled account, and the central bank onboards it to the Office of National Security Advisor. Now, the amount that will be coming from this is quite humongous because as at 2022, the volume of electronic transfers that were registered in Nigeria was in the excess of 325 trillion naira. Now, in 2023, it went up to 600 trillion naira. So divide that or multiply that by 0.005, and you can imagine what will be coming back to the government coffers. So my real challenge, away from what the architecture actually would portend for the future in terms of ensuring security, but supposedly cybersecurity for Nigerians, is the transparency and the accountability that surrounds the governance mechanisms around which and about which these funds will actually be used. I will be a little bit more comfortable if the Office of the National Security Advisor will give us full disclosure, expose us to open book management of how these funds are utilized and how these funds are managed. We can't continue to tax Nigerians. The kind of tax that ordinary Nigerians will be paying from this new instruction now is called the Piguvian tax. What is the Piguvian tax? It is the payment of tax for something that you don't really have any business with. So if there are cybersecurity threats, if there are cybersecurity issues, why should I, a customer, be taxed to start paying or to start funding an architecture that will ensure that that is reduced or mitigated to the barest minimum? I think it is fair that that was included in the Cybersecurity Act as amended in 2024. And I think Nigerians are already paying too much, and Nigerians already have their purchasing power reduced already. To start asking them to pay some extra 500 or 50 naira on every 10,000 naira transaction, and other taxes that have been paid, other levies. Some pay for text messages, some pay for transfers. I don't think it is fair to Nigerians at this point in time.
All right, Kenneth, before I let you go, just let me echo the concerns or the, will I call it, reaction right now of some people or certain individuals or citizens as regards this particular directive. They've dubbed it institutional extortion. Do you think this particular directive from the government, reflects such?
So let's cut a slack for Mr. Wale Edu and Dr. Yemi Cardoso and their principal, the President of the Federal Republic. So dub it institutional extortion, I think, is quite too heavy. But I would say it is institutional exploitation for services that otherwise should come free of charge. Now, the main question we should be asking is there any country in the world where this is happening? From my research up till 5 p.m. this evening, there is no country in Africa or in the world that I have found actually charges any form of cyber security levy or tax. This is Piggivian taxation. This is not fair, and I hope that it will come down to maybe 0.1, and then maybe I will send a bottle of wine to Mr. Edu and to Dr. Cardoso for at least trying to make sure that we are cyber safe.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenneth Ikenwa, for your time on the news.
Nice being with you again.
All right.